meeting to order. It's 6 o'clock. Nice to see everyone. Hope it's been a good summer. We have our consent agenda. We have a number of prior minutes from April 16th, May 13th, and August 12th. And then we have a number of policy reads, both first read, second read, and then that informational only one. Any discussion from the board? Any questions, concerns? Okay, so I'll make a motion then to accept the consent agenda.
Mary, can I just interject
Yes.
before you do?
Yeah.
There is one policy under your first read,
Yeah.
F11 FERPA. We noticed some errors in the FERPA policy that did not get picked up.
Oh, okay.
Under review. They're really non-consequential changes, just we have been trying to be really careful about language, so we don't say families, we say caregivers, and or we don't say parents, because it's not always the parents that are the family, so we changed the language to caregivers.
I
And
see that.
there was something in the appendix of that policy where Sheldon had not been picked up because it was an old policy. And in all of the reviews, I don't think we brought the actual appendix for the review, so it got missed by people. So we've added that, they're updated in there. And we've done an we're doing an all search of all policies to make sure that anywhere a school is named, that they're named. And we've changed the practice so that policy committee gets any appendices and procedures. That was an error on our part.
Okay.
So I just wanted to name that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Any further discussion? So I'll make that motion for the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. And then any particulars around the prioritization of the meeting?
A couple of things. I was hoping that we could add under board business, if we could just have a conversation about our schedule for these FNESU meetings and see if the board has any interest in looking at the timing of it. It's been a little challenging to get quorums for this board, so we just want to look proactively to see if maybe we can make a schedule change that would make it easier for people to come. And we do have a step 3 grievance to be heard by this board, so I would prefer to put that at the very end and let everybody leave and then have the board hear that grievance.
Yes. Sounds good. Courtney, anyone in the virtual public comment?
Nobody's online.
Oh, okay, and no one here, so we'll move forward then to our two spotlights. Dominic, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Well, I should have sent you a new link. I just made a couple of changes, but
Oh, you said.
that's all right. Sorry, I apologize in advance for the raspiness. My allergies are getting a little better of me a little bit today.
Do you want her to change? She can open the other link. Let's make sure it's the one that you're looking at.
It's pretty similar anyway, but I can send it to her.
Yeah, there's no rush.
It's just a couple of bullet points that I
Yeah,
added last
let's
minute.
make sure she has the right slideshow. It's good to see everybody. Welcome back to the 25-26 school year. We're excited to welcome kids back tomorrow.
Yeah, that's amazing. So,
That's sent. You should have it in about 30 seconds.
I'll get it on my phone first.
how fast is the Wi-Fi reading?
We're finding out.
Not on my phone.
It actually could be a little faster, but we have a feature turned on to give us 30 seconds to hit undo after you hit send.
I appreciate it.
Me too.
I
You get that little message.
Yeah.
It makes you think, oh wait, oh, I have to be that way.
Got it. Okay, we're back.
Down here, it's
It
unsent.
didn't make that connection though, but that's why it lags. It didn't make that.
Yeah, whatever, I think you can set it anywhere from like 5 seconds to 30 or something like that. So whatever you pick, it takes that long before it actually sends it.
Okay.
I could use more than 30 on some messages.
Sometimes I do.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll alarm for the, this went to your drafts folder. Are you sure that's where you want it to go?
Okay.
Not working now?
No.
I might have given you bad advice.
Yeah. But you can always go back to the first
There
link
it
and
is. Okay.
I can let you know if there's
Now let
something
me go
different.
back to present mode.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
It is not like it in presentation. So
How about we just go from there?
we're just gonna do that, okay?
That works. Okay, so rather than just digging into one specific topic around IT, I wanted to highlight a few different initiatives that we've had going on. So feel free to jump in and ask questions as I go. So first, talking about AI. So with AI being such a big topic, I wanted to just let you know a couple things we're working on. One is that we put together an AI roadmap team. That's myself, Gabrielle, Leah, Robert Jarvis, and Robert Hickey. So we're working on helping to create guidance for our users to help them use AI. One, don't be afraid of it. Actually use it, and then use it effectively and safely too. And another thing that we work on is, and you've probably all seen it at this point, is our new AI policy. I worked with another group that was, Robert Jarvis and Robert Hickey again, and this time Caroline Elander and Jai Hatterick joined us to create our AI policy. And trying to focus on making sure people understand things like data privacy and appropriate uses, and some guidelines for helping people use it. And in the spirit of this slide, the blurb at the bottom is 100% AI generated. Where it says our approach is rooted in thoughtful integration, ensuring that AI enhances learning and supports educators and prepares students for a future where these tools are part of everyday life. We're committed to using AI not just because it's available, but because it's meaningful. So I didn't write it, but I didn't disagree with it, so I left it. Another project that I worked on last year was I created an app for helping with the onboarding process for new employees. Because we were finding a lot of times there were breakdowns in communication where someone would get hired and you don't think of all the different tasks that are related to when a new person comes on, such as setting up an email account, setting up a computer, assigning a key card, putting them into Power Schools so they get calls. And we didn't always have everyone that needs to be responsible for one of those tasks, knowing when someone was hired or maybe they didn't have all the right information. So I created an app using a tool called AppSheet, and it will, when we put information in for a new employee, it automatically generates a task list for each person who would be responsible for a task, depending on where that employee will be working. And then it sends email notifications out that people know, you've got a new employee, and you've got tasks assigned to you, so you can go in and check those off. And then helps with the data too. So the things that those people need to see in order to do their tasks, they'll be able to see it in the app. And another tool we've been using is Clever, and it does a couple of different things for us. One is we're we've gotten to the point where, there's so many different digital learning tools for staff and students, it can be hard to keep track of how to access all of them, what's the address for this tool, and which username and password do we use for that. So we're using Clever as it's kind of one place to house a lot of those things. So we've got a little over 25 tools in there now, and we're working to keep adding to that. Some things that people use most commonly, you can just sign into Clever. You just go there and sign in with your Google account, and it gives you access to all of those tools. You just have an icon for each one of them. When you click, it automatically signs you right in. So you don't have to worry about, you just have to be able to get into that one account now rather than however many you might have normally thought of. And it also, it's all automated, so when a student comes in, as soon as their info is put into PowerSchool and a Google account is created for them, then their Clever account will become active, and they'll be able to access the portal and access all the tools that all of their peers get. And it's similar for staff as well. And then the other part of it is data management, because that can be kind of a bear on the back end of things. All these different tools that we need, we need those accounts to be created in all of those tools. So this can take care of that as well. So we have our data from PowerSchool going to Clever nightly, and then Clever can sync out to all those different apps. So we don't have to worry about, when someone new comes, we've got 50 different platforms to go and create new accounts for people in. It all happens automatically as people come and go. That's for everything that we can sync to this tool.
All those things that Dominic's talking about, the automating all of those processes are saving so much time, and they're really efficient. I can, remember when Michelle used to have students starting in programs, it would take a lot of time before they had all access to everything they needed to be learning, and so this has made a huge difference in so many levels to have so much of this streamlined.
One of the really nice bonuses of it too is that it's free for schools. They made their licensing model or their profit model where they charge the companies that want to partner with them. And then, so there's no charge for schools to use it.
Nice.
Okay, so with all these different tools that we're using, trying to have a growing focus on student data privacy. That's part of it. We're now sharing information with every one of those vendors that we work with. And so we want to make sure that they're handling the data responsibly. And we're doing that through a few different things. One is you've seen the updates to our G8 policy recently, our responsible computer network and internet use. I still want to call it acceptable use, where it used to be named. Like one of the examples a change that we made to that is we're no longer allowing use of smart speakers in our schools because of how they record conversations and then share that data back with Amazon or whatever company made their product. And another thing we're doing is working with the Student Data Privacy Consortium. I'll go a little bit more into depth on that, as well as the monitoring and control using a system called Lightspeed Insight. So the Student Data Privacy Consortium, they allow us to put legal agreements in place that's more friendly to us and our students than a normal terms of service and privacy policies from pretty much all vendors out there. It's all written by lawyers with a lot of specific provisions they have to agree to, and that's now become part of our vetting policy for all these apps that we're going to use. We're asking them to sign one of these agreements for us. So it goes into things like the data ownership, specifying we own the data, not them. Different security protocols, basically things that they have to do and have to have in place to safeguard the data. Procedures around data breaches, which Power School was very much in reach of. And improper data disposal too, which is one probably a lot of people don't think of, but it has stipulations in there for if we stop doing business with a vendor, they have to delete all of our data within a set amount of time. So that way we're not having to worry about a data breach with a company we stopped doing business with 2 years ago. They've still got all their data. So it kind of helps standardize things too, because it's the same for every vendor we work with, rather than each of them having their own terms where they're all signing the same agreement with us. And along with this, we partnered with a company called the Education Cooperative, known by Tech. They make this process much easier because it can be a real bear trying to even figure out who to reach out to at a company to have them sign this agreement. So Tech will do all that legwork for us. And if it's a new agreement, that if no other school in Vermont has an agreement with a vendor yet, we can just send Tech the request and they'll do that legwork and get the agreement set up. It's even easier if at least one other school in Vermont already has an agreement. We can just search for it, find it in a database, and simply sign it to add our name onto it, and then we're covered by the existing agreement. Okay, so Lightspeed Insight. Should be some text below that. I guess that image is a little bit vague.
You're just good.
Yeah, there
Oh,
you go.
I'm sorry.
So it goes hand in hand with the student data privacy agreements and vetting apps, and because it's so hard to keep track of all of the different apps and services that our schools are using. It's literally hundreds of them at this point. And so the Lightspeed Insight generates a list of all digital services used on any FNESU Chromebooks. And then it integrates with the Student Data Privacy Consortium, so we can go in and we can check and run reports to see any digital services that a student is using that we don't have a student data privacy agreement in place for, so we know we need to work on that. And it also lets us put out an approved list, approved digital services list, so we can, our teachers can all have a spot to go to look and see, okay, everything on this list they know is okay to use, and just click a button if they want to ask for something else to be reviewed and considered for addition to the list. Okay, and so another big area that I've been trying to focus more and more on the last few years is cybersecurity. It's, there've been enough headlines out there for different, even schools being hacked and ransomware. And, yeah. So here are some of the ways we're trying to keep things as safe as we can. We know we're never going to be 100% safe when there are multi-billion-dollar companies that are still out there getting hacked, but we do what we can. So one of the things we're doing is we're using a product called Datto for all of our administrators, both in this office and in all of our schools. It backs up all Google data. So if one of those users were to have their account hacked and all of their data deleted or encrypted or something, we've got this to fall back on. I also work with Visbit. They do an annual cyber audit. It's basically an interview where they'll ask me all kinds of questions about what we're doing and how we're safeguarding our networks and our data. And part of that's them making sure we're compliant to be covered by their cyber policy. But part of it is they'll give us a report back and highlight areas that they think we could improve. And then there's another service that Visbit offering that it's fairly new. I haven't really done much with it yet, but they have started the testing anyway. So I don't know if you might not be familiar with the network penetration test with that term, but it's a simulated cyber attack. So basically they're pretending to be someone trying to hack into our networks, and they'll do that for all of our schools. They'll do that quarterly and then send me a report, and if they see any holes where they could have gotten in, they'll let me know so that we can work on closing those up. And then cybersecurity awareness and training. This is something we started last year. So we do phishing simulations. Every employee will get 2 messages per month that try to mimic a phishing email. So, is everyone familiar with the term phishing by now? So everyone will get 2 a month where they're, try to fool them into thinking it's a legit email and let them know if they click on the link, or let me know. And when they do, and they get a message letting them know, hey, that wasn't a safe link to click, and you've been phished, but don't worry, your data's safe because it was just a test. So last year, about 20% of the time these were being clicked on. So at least that was our first year doing it, and so we've got a number to try to beat this year now.
He got some of us in this room.
I only did it
myself
once.
and- Yeah.
Once too.
I get yes, it's screenshots.
Yeah.
I even offered like snacks or something to take
Yeah.
me off the list.
The timing of some of them have been pretty funny. Like, I remember,
It was also funny.
I remember Gab mentioning one where she was phished and it was a fake message saying it was from like Delta, I think,
Yep.
when she really had a flight with Delta that week.
Yep.
So. And then they were also doing monthly trainings with InfoSec, the same company that does the phishing awareness, which we're just sending out just short, like 3 to 5 minute training videos with a few questions at the end. More subjects like phishing awareness, good password habits, understanding malware, safe data browsing or web browsing. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just that one message at the end. We're trying to keep moving forward and trying to be on the cutting edge as much as we can, but making sure we don't go too fast, that we're still keeping safety and security in mind.
Thank you so much, Dominic. This was really helpful, even though we have lots of conversations, there were things that, I picked up on this slideshow, and I think Dominic has one of those jobs that no one really knows what he does quietly behind the scenes. And there's so much of what he's been working on to protect all of us, to protect our students, our privacy, and our networks and our data, in response to one of the things we didn't talk about were some of the federal laws that were put into place that much of this work is centered on being in compliance with. So I think that I appreciate the work that you're doing, and I don't think you get enough thanks, and I don't think enough people appreciate how much you hold. This was just kind of the federal stuff and the internal stuff, but I will say there's a lot of state stuff that he also holds to around data that is pretty labor intensive, so I appreciate you knowing. Thanks.
Thank you so much. All right, Michelle Irish.
Yeah. Courtney has my slideshow. So Lynn asked me to talk tonight a little bit about our teacher evaluation remodel. So we've spent the last, I guess it's definitely 2 school years, almost 3, working on a redesign of our teacher evaluation model. The previous model, I think, came before Lynn. Maybe before Lynn was a principal.
It was developed
Pretty
when I
old.
was a principal, yeah.
So it was time for a refresh. We definitely wanted to lean into a growth focus in teacher evaluation, not just the principals giving teachers feedback about their performance. So it's a much more reflective process. And it's conveniently also in the timing with the requirements of the EQS, the Education Quality Standards that came live in July. One of the components is having a comprehensive district-wide teacher evaluation model. So we are ahead of the curve in that way, and saw it coming and knew we were going to be there. So I think that was helpful. So we started sort of with a guiding question of how do we build the teacher evaluation system that emphasizes coaching and growth over compliance. I think 27 years ago when I was a teacher in one of our schools, it was really about, a lot of box checking, and it was like you have to have an evaluation once every so many years, and you have to do this thing with kind of in lockstep, and you do it and you put it away, and you don't really look at it again. It wasn't very meaningful for me. It was not meaningful, I don't think, at all for my principal. So we're really looking at how do we improve that so it's value added for both parties, and the teachers are doing a bulk of the reflecting themselves. So that's where we know we get growth. So we went into this thinking about our systems work. We wanted to make sure we incorporated the board vision, mission, and goals, that those were being supported, that we wanted to ensure that our portrait of a learner was going to be supported by this work, and that we have a student-centered, equity-driven, and future-focused sort of lens on our work. We also wanted to make sure there was stakeholder engagement. So we pulled together a team of people, including building leaders, central office leaders, instructional coaches, and teachers. Actually, several of the union leaders in our district participated in this from the development phase. So we worked with Rachel Reynolds, who's a former principal here, and her father, Duffy Miller. This is what they do for work, is they work on teacher evaluation. So they came in to help us develop the system, but it was really developed by our people. So we started in the fall of 2023, really kind of launching that work, group learning about coaching, evaluation models, and framework elements. So we kind of did some research about what's on the cutting edge right now, what's being done out there, what do we want our system to look like. We drafted a framework and elements sort of as a whole group. You'll see a little bit of that in a second. Then we looked at developing some rubrics, which we have gone through a couple iterations of and have some fresh edits that just came out this August. In April, we reviewed the framework and provided some feedback, and then we launched our pilot last year. So we worked with about 40 teachers and leaders to pilot this program for the first year, so we could see kind of where the pain points were and what we needed to address. So right to the next slide. In our pilot, we had about 40 people working on this. We focused on 3 key teaching indicators, which I'll show you in a second. Our goal was to move from the traditional evaluation to a collaborative process, and the emphasis was really on teacher autonomy and professional development. Our former system was a 3-year cycle, but really only the first year of the cycle was active, where the teacher was running evaluation, getting observations from the principal, having conferences and feedback from them. And then they really weren't in the cycle the next 2 years. They kind of didn't have to think about it again until their turn came up. And another thing that happened is that we had so many new staff and the pandemic that a lot of our teachers who've been with us a long time were not getting regular evaluations and not doing their professional learning in the same way. So that was something that we wanted to shift this to an more active cycle, all 3 years of the cycle. The teachers, I put a couple quotes in from the pilot. So one of the responses was that this felt more collaborative than our traditional approach to evaluation. And another said it felt more teacher-driven and more of a process together with an administrator than one that is done to you, which was really our aim. So we're looking at both growth-focused and evaluative. We're required by law to evaluate our teachers on a cycle. We use a 3-year cycle. But we really want to spend most of that time in sort of a growth-focused assessment process with coaching and reflection. I'm not going to read everything on there, but okay. So one of the major shifts, I think, is around goal setting. We have the priority standards I'll show you in a few minutes, but each teacher is going to be doing some individual goal development. They're entering into collaborative conversations with their administrator to kind of finalize that goal. There's opportunities for personalized professional growth, so it's not every teacher is working toward the same exact thing, but they all have some element of choice, and there's flexibility in how they choose their goals. a couple more quotes from those teachers. I think the goal setting is probably one of the more beneficial parts of the process. It's not just you're setting a goal, but you're talking about that goal, you're revising it, making the goal stronger. And then I think having those focused conversations kept bringing me back to what it was I had said I was going to do, because it was really easy to set a goal at the beginning of the year, then forget about what your goal is because you're wrapped up in so many things. So the fact that you're constantly being reminded as you're having these conversations keeps it in the forefront as you're talking about it. The shift to the coaching conversations, I think, was really a game changer for our staff and our leaders. Both the staff that participated in the pilot and the principals talked about those coaching conversations being really meaningful and really feeling like they were doing the work they came here to do, both principals and teachers. So it went from directive to reflective feedback. It was much more collaborative. Teachers felt more motivated and supported, and there was an increased focus on their individual professional growth. One key insight was that the quality of the conversations matters more than frequency. We used to have some targets of how many minutes a principal was supposed to be with a teacher or observing a teacher in their classroom. And they found that, a 15-minute conversation meant more to that teacher and that principal than, 100 minutes of just random observation. So that was something that we were shifting a little bit. A couple more quotes up there. I think being able to have that individualized time where I was able to get get feedback about something being very meaningful and applicable to my specific role was really cool. I think sometimes it's tricky, especially in positions where there's only like a few people in that role within the district. I appreciate that individualized time to have those conversations. And another teacher said, I think for me it felt like I was the center of the conversation, which I think is really important. This is the teaching framework we developed. There are 4 distinct standards, and the highlighted areas are the indicators we've chosen to focus on as a supervisory union for this year. So standard 2.3 is managing space, routines, and procedures, and indicator 2.4 is building classroom culture. Both of those things are things we've been working on pretty hard in the last few years around our professional learning as a district, and are really fundamental to building a good classroom culture. The delivery of instruction indicator is 3.5, monitoring student understanding and providing feedback. Again, that's something we've been really focused on with our portrait of the learner work from K through 12, and really looking at helping. It's kind of that particular indicator sort of summarizes all the others. Like it's the culminating indicator for that standard 3. And then standard 4.1 is reflecting on practice and setting goals for growth. That's sort of baked into the system. So those are our 4 priority indicators. For teachers who are in their evaluation year of their cycle, where they're getting observations and coaching by their principal, they will choose one of those indicators to write a goal around. All teachers every year will choose from any indicator on the placemat that they want to work on for that year, and they're going to be doing that as part of their continuous improvement. So they'll pick an indicator in October, write a professional learning goal, and then they'll have an opportunity for an end of the year reflection on how they did with their goal. And that's really more individualized. The principals will give them time, but they won't be having conversations with each teacher individually. Go ahead. It's okay, sorry. Good. No, you're fine. So this is the cycle, kind of in the summary. We've got 2 lanes. So you've got, if you're a probationary teacher, there's an extra year because we're required by law to do the first year twice. So the first year is that growth focused formal observation where they go through the cycle with their administrator, and then their third. In that case, their 3rd year and 4th year are their professional development planning years. So that's when they'll be choosing from that placemat of indicators. For veteran teachers, it's a 3-year cycle, as I said, and they spend the first year with the formal observation, then they move into their 2 years of professional development where they're monitoring their own goals, and they cycle back. This is sort of the process laid out in an annual way. So in August and September, the principals are doing overviews with their staff, introducing those focus indicators, and they may also be choosing a school-wide indicator. That was something that we added this year. The principals and the teachers felt like some choice around school-level goals and individual goals might be something they wanted. In October, all teachers will complete the self-assessment and write an annual goal. And if they're in their evaluation year with their principal, they'll do a collaborative goal writing conference with them. In December and February, December will be evaluations, formal evaluations for probationary teachers. February, there's a mid-year check-in for the veteran teachers, just to make sure they're kind of on track with their goal. And then veteran teachers and the newer teachers get their evaluations in the spring. And then throughout the whole process, there's classroom visits with evidence, feedback using Teach Point, which we have also redrafted to work with the placement. Parting words. So this is just the words from a teacher. I'm a fan of this process. I think it's helped the evaluation process feel more meaningful and positive. So really, I think I was really excited by the level of excitement both our administrators and our teachers who went through the process last year had about this process. You don't see people getting excited about evaluation very often. So it's pretty neat. Any questions?
Thank you all for sharing. It's excellent. I'm glad that you're hearing so much positive feedback. Seems like it was a good time to overhaul things.
I think it ended positively. I think it was a lot of work over the last couple of years to get here. And so definitely throughout the process, what the beautiful part of that is it was too cumbersome in the beginning, but by doing it in this pilot way, their feedback really made it much better. And I think that's why it ended on such a positive note, because people really saw that they were heard and that things changed as a result of that feedback. So.
And I think we really have streamlined things even since the spring to make it much more accessible for people, much more easier to manage. I think the principals are going to find a dramatic difference in their effort in what they have to produce at the end of the year, because the teachers are going to be the ones doing most of the reflecting and the writing. So principals will be able to capture what the teachers are writing, but they're going to have to put in hours and hours of evaluation writing.
Great, thank you so much. So moving on then, Morgan.
Thanks. This is the last month for a while that I will be brief with you. Budgeting will start in earnest next month. First three items on my agenda are really primarily informational. One thing that I would add is just a plea, especially for the Enosburg-Richford board members and the SU board members, to keep an eye out for those warrants, both payroll and the bills, and approve those and get your approvals to either Franny or Sonia, whoever sends them out. We've been a little behind on some of those in the last couple of months. I don't think I need a motion, but I would like some guidance regarding our transportation contract. We're in year 3 of a 3-year contract with Terracel Transportation for the contract moving kids to and from school, and then we also do some extracurricular trips through them as well. Your options as a board, or our options, are either to rebid the entire contract, or we could negotiate a 1-year extension. We can do that several years in a row. Given all the uncertainty that's out there in terms of where we may end up 3 years from now, my recommendation would be that we try to renegotiate a contract for next year. The state requires that it not increase more than an inflation amount. We don't know that inflation amount yet. We'll get that probably October, November timeframe, but it historically runs between 2.5% and 3.5%. So probably less than if we went and rebid the contract. So again, I don't need a motion, I don't think, but if folks are supportive, I would sort of like the direction to negotiate an additional year with Terracell for the contract.
That makes sense for all the reasons you highlighted.
Right?
Because otherwise, what we would be negotiating for another 3-year
We would get out
contract,
for another 3
things could
years.
look much different
Right.
in 3 years.
Mhm.
So, yeah, if we're allowed, you said we're allowed to do it 2 additional this time and 1 more?
We should be allowed to do it. You're allowed to increase by whatever that inflation factor is per year. And then once the total contract is 30% higher than the original contract, you need to rebid it out.
Oh, it kind of
But that's
triggers.
likely 5, 6, 7 years out unless inflation goes crazy.
Okay, great, yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay? And unless there are any questions, that's all I have for you tonight.
Okay, great, thank you so much, Morgan. Lynn, you are up.
So I will start with personnel. And everything that you see in bold for the personnel report is what I'm looking for action on. So because we have not met since, I want to say it was April. I don't think we had any special meetings after that. We have done a lot of hiring since then. So for instructional support, instructional staff, we have Julie Cattell, the instructional coach, Lucille Walker, middle school literacy interventionist at Sheldon, Paige Johnston, behavior specialist in the RISE program, Sarah Carpenter, behavior specialist in the STEPS program, and Brooklyn Gochi, behavior specialist at Sheldon. We also have, I'll just give it all to you at once, Kelly Schwenk, special educator at Enosburg Elementary School, Kevin Stetz, special educator at Enosburg Falls Middle High School, Suzanne Dalwa, special educator at Enosburg Middle High School. Did you delineate between those two, Michelle? Or is one focusing on high school and one's focusing on middle, or they're both middle high school?
Kevin is
Kevin and
middle only, Suzanne is high school.
Okay.
Yep.
So I should have read the slide. Adelaide Jones, special educator at Sheldon. Jessica Caffrey, virtual speech and language pathologist. John Lumsden, we were able to hire him, recently retired, to a long-term substitute position for us. Katie Thompson, kind of retired at the end of last year, and we convinced her to come back, the equivalent of 1 day a week, to be the school counselor at STEPS. So if the board would make a motion to approve hiring, that would be great.
I'll make that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Okay, and then I will say that other part is informational. Let me go back up. For paraeducators, there's just a list for your information of BTs and paraeducators that have been hired, and also kitchen assistants in the schools that they have been hired for. It's been a actually pretty good hiring summer. When we got, I think it was last week, Jamie and I had a conversation that this is really the best we've been positioned in years in terms of being really close to being fully staffed. Make no mistake, we still didn't get as many candidates as we had hoped for, but we got enough candidates where we were able to staff our positions. So with some of those new hires, there were also resignations that came in. Sadly, Marty Vallander has resigned. He's off on an adventure for a couple of years with his wife, and we hope that we will get him back when he comes back to the United States. So Marty Vallander, Jessica Henderson, she was a special educator, Christian DeFranco, a special educator, Morgan McAllister, Amy Doolittle. So I'd ask the board to make a motion to approve those resignations.
I'll make that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
And then just informational support staff resignations. Outside. We do as well, we feel really good about where we are with the hiring piece, with the staffing piece. We do have a few positions that we're still looking for. We have struggled for some time to find adequate speech and language pathologists, so this has really been a perennial position that has been open, so we're still actively searching for speech and language pathologists. A board certified behavior analyst, there was some internal shifting, and Michelle lost some that were specific to her program, so she's looking to fill another position there. We're looking for an early childhood special educator, someone to focus on the early MTSS, the system of supports with our early childhood programs. For instructional support, Enosburg Middle High School is still looking for a grant-funded literacy interventionist position. Sheldon is still looking for a math interventionist position. Our alternative program is looking for a K through 6 teacher. Michelle, can that be both in person or virtual? Is it posted as in person for now?
I would prefer in person, yeah.
Right.
I have the virtual piece already, I'm looking for the in person.
And we also are looking for alternative program behavior technicians. So if people are watching and you're interested in any of those positions, please reach out to us or apply on Schoolspring. We always are looking to add substitutes, so areas that we're looking to add to are teachers, nurses, paraeducators, custodians, food service, kind of the whole shebang. We would love to see an increase in the number of people who are interested in subbing. We do run our substitutes through Kelly Services, so Jamie can help people get connected with Kelly Services to get signed up for subbing if people are interested in doing that. We have a few personnel requests. Some of this is cleanup. We had a staff member, Moss Lambros, who had 2 days that they needed to take unpaid leave for. So I'm asking the board to make a motion to approve 2 days of unpaid leave for Moss Lambros.
I'll make that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
So we have Kendra Pillsbury, who is one of our special educators who works in Bakersfield. Natalie is about to have her first child, and so she has worked with Jamie about the leave that she has available to her. So what she's asking the board to do is to extend her FMLA for childbirth. So her request is she'll run out of leave in early December, on December 1st, we believe. So she'll run out of the FMLA piece, and we could be off by a couple of days, you know how babies go with when they arrive and all of that, but for right now, this is our best guess. So she would like to, instead of coming back the first part of December, not come back until early January, so when we return from that winter break. So she's asking the board to approve an unpaid leave request to extend her FMLA from December 2nd through the 23rd. Any questions on that?
No. I'll make that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and this is just informational. We're always looking at our staffing structures here, and one of the things that we worked through this year was the number of days that our early childhood director was working, and we made a mutual agreement that we were in a position where we could reduce from 260 to, oh boy, I didn't write it down, Jamie, 205.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So I'm just giving that to you as information. That was a decision that we made, and it works out for both us and for Melissa. And there will be some things that she will not be able to do that she was previously holding, and I think she has done a lot already to move us forward. We had no one that was holding this work, and she's done a tremendous job. I'm actually going to share the board monitoring plan in a little bit, but I'll just say something about this. Some of the work that Melissa's done for early MTSS is people are paying attention to at the state level, and so she and a couple of our early ed teachers who have been doing this work in coaching are now helping to support others across the state, and they've actually been asked to present at a conference in state run, I think it is Connecticut, maybe in November. So I'll have her talk about that when she does her spotlight. So it's exciting stuff for our early ed programs. I'm going to jump into our board monitoring plan. So I have not given you a plan that's kind of this put together before. My intention was to try to build some cohesion around what we bring to you each month. So what I'm going to share with you is an outline of our schedule, what I have written into a draft for presentations, and with some tips on some data reporting that I will bring. All of this is really centered on this board's 3 strategic goals, and we have 3 system level priorities that we're always working towards. So as you're listening through this, I would love for you to start making some mental notes about what's missing, because I really want your feedback at the end of this. Are there things that are not on here that you hope to hear more information about, or if there's data specifically that you want us to bring back? I'll ask Courtney to take some notes during the discussion at the end. So we'll jump into this. So our board meeting schedule is pretty routine. We meet 7 times each year generally. Every once in a while, depending on what's happening, either with school budgets or the legislative process, there are times where we have to add a couple of special meetings in there, but we generally try to meet just 7 times throughout the year. So we're trying to strategically focus on having those 2 spotlight presentations each month so that all of you are kept up to date on the work that we're trying to do across the district, and we're trying to give you data and reporting back on that more routinely and regularly than we have in the past. Our focus is always on continuous improvement, and we're trying to provide with this report an opportunity for us to really help the board to see the progress that we're making across the system. And I did leave some space in here. I want to be able to maintain a little bit of flexibility, because sometimes we can't anticipate those things that will come up throughout the year, especially in the world we live in right now, with both the federal issues related to education and the state issues related to redistricting and Act 73, education transformation. So here we go. So here are 3 board goals that you're all very well aware of. We're very focused on academic proficiency across the board, and our big high leverage goal that we've been working on is trying to get all students reading on grade level by the end of grade 3. And that's an evidence base. If we can do that, it improves student outcomes at all levels across all contents down the road. Student-centered learning is really around our portrait of a learner and students graduating by using a body of evidence to prove proficiency, rather than having it be you can sit and get credit for the time that you spend in the course and not failing. So it's really a demonstration of proficiency. And the work that we have done to build competencies in the areas of self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making with our students. So those are our big goal areas. And then if you think about our system, what we do in this office, like Dominic I mentioned earlier in his presentation, there's a lot that we hold here that isn't visible to those that don't work here. And when we onboard people in this office, they quickly start to pick up on, I didn't understand all the things that are happening here. So when we think about our focus areas, we have a lot of responsibility when it comes to regulatory compliance and kind of the organizational integrity of our system. So we have both state and federal laws and local policies. We also have Vermont's new education quality standards, which we'll be getting a look at this fall. We also have the district quality standards, which I still, even though I told you when we met in May at your district meetings that I would have them in 2 weeks, I still don't have them from the agency. So I asked last week and they said soon. I don't know what that means, so soon we'll have some more on that. But there's also a lot around that is centered on us getting timely data and reporting out, and really looking at how can we streamline some of the things that we have to do across the system. So a lot of our effort has been centered on, is there a different way that we could do that is either more automated, or is it something that one person can hold here and take it off all of the other principals' plates? So there's a lot of those conversations that happen in here, and really looking at operational efficiencies that include human resources and payroll as well. So then we get into fiscal efficiency. I think that should be pretty evident for anyone who's been paying attention to what we're trying to do in terms of our spending and our plan within our system, and then school operations. So really being strategic about our resource allocation and how we think about operations within our system. So we have tried to be very strategic about shared resources. The facilities work that Vern has been just doing an incredible job with as a part of that piece, and being really cost effective, but focused on high quality learning experiences for our students. In this also, our work around staffing levels and ratios, class sizes, that all falls in there, and other operational management. Morgan talked about transportation tonight. Don's food service would fall there. I'm going to talk about school safety and security in a little bit, technology, and those facility improvements. And then the final system level area of focus is centered on climate and culture. And that a lot falls under climate and culture. So we think about the work we've done for, it's probably been 5 years since we developed the strategic recruitment retention plan. So all of those strategies, including some of the work we've done around instructional coaching, and we've upped our game a little related to in-building mentoring for our staff. We're going to try to do more this year around wellness, and then just our hiring process and the work that we continue to do. You'll see we should create a pathway. That's one thing, Jamie, we can maybe think about for the future, how many employees that we have in professional positions that we've helped to find a pathway to licensure over the years. It's really has been tremendous.
Hired almost every para-educator at the bachelor's degree to a professional position.
And help them get their license. So the other, the culture pieces is cultivating that positive and inclusive school environment, really focusing in on student attendance and also staff attendance. There are some data that we've reviewed regarding that. We're looking at behavior referrals and wanting to improve and increase meaningful engagement with our community partners. So for the board spotlight, I know it's a little small, but I'm hoping you can see kind of the structure I used to develop this was to think about each of these months and think about either the 3 board goals or those 3 priorities. Oh, there you go, Courtney. Thank you, yeah. So this month that we're in, those are the 2 spotlights that you had. Morgan gave you a little tip about the previous year's fiscal year audit. My report is centered on school safety and this board monitoring plan. So I won't read all of it to you, but if you could take a look, you can see where we're going in September. You can see our focus areas. We want to get you some data around our student assessment, kind of a year in review from 24-25. Jamie's going to do an annual HR report so that you can get, she gives you so much information and so many data points in that report. When Morgan does his report, you'll get your first look at SU staffing in that September meeting. I have not input what mine is going to be yet. I could either take some feedback on that, or I want to think more about some of the state context of what's happening and think about something there. In October, we want to give the board a look at the work that's happening around student attendance and how our family engagement staff is connected to attendance. I think that is something that comes out every year during budgeting, is what do those people do? And so we thought it might be helpful for us to bring them in and have them help Michelle present to you so you can see some of the things they're doing to support students and families. The second spotlight will be about how we're meeting one of the quality standards around needs-based professional learning and all that is being offered across the system and has been offered across the system. And then when Morgan meets with you, from here forward, I give you kind of the district tip. So when you go to your district board meeting, He's gonna give you your first look at staffing levels in October at NMD and ER. And in the SU, he'll give you the full expense budget. I'll be focused on October. We kind of lock in on that enrollment data on October 1st, so I always give you student enrollment and class size. I'm gonna give you more this year. I'm also gonna give you some of the staffing ratio data because there's a lot that's embedded in ed quality standards around that. In November, we'll shift to our priority areas of portrait of a learner and the social emotional learning part of our goal. So Gab will give an update on the work that's happening around the portrait of a learner and a really exciting pilot project that we're in called Skills for the Future. I'm excited to share that with the board. Callie will come in and give you some information about where they're bringing the social emotional learning work and the waypoints data. So we talked to you a little bit about that in the past about how we're measuring some of these skills. And so she's gonna she'll have a little bit of data from last year, and then we'll be able to look at the fall data from this year. When you have your district meetings with Morgan in November, he'll give you the districts their full expense budget, and in the SU, you'll look at revenue. And I tentatively put district quality standards there because it says on their plan that I have to get the board to give feedback in the fall, so I don't know if that's where it'll land or not. In December, I'll want you to hear from Heather about the LEAPS after school programming. And I'm only gonna put one spotlight in December because Morgan's gonna need most of that meeting to finalize the SU budget. So I'm giving him lots of airtime at that meeting. You'll get your revenue reports at your district meetings in December. And I'll talk about meaningful community engagement. In January, I should put meaningful community engagement and communication. We have a kind of a strategic plan that Brittany and I are working on related to communication. In January, we will have Melissa talk about early education, and Michelle will give the board a presentation around student services and our in-house alternative programs. I think that always comes up as we get close to budgeting. I will say, Michelle and her staff worked through the weekend to try to get the STEPS program ready to open. And she did have someone approach her on Saturday and say, you have all these schools and you still need this building. And I don't think it was really done in a way that was very supportive, but I think it's important for our community to continue to hear that we build these alternative programs, one, because we're keeping our kids in our communities, and two, we're doing it for, I'm making a guess at the percentage, and Morgan, you can tell me if I'm off, about 60% of what it would cost to send out. Transportation alone is $30,000 per student, so much more efficient use of resources in-house. So I think that's a good time to bring that back to if anybody's watching that meeting.
In addition to the fact that there are very few
Correct.
out-of-district placements.
Correct. Yes, good point. You will, in your district budgets meetings, you will finalize your district budgets. And then in your February meetings, you'll do some annual meeting prep at your district level. Legislature's coming back in January. I anticipate that I'm going to want to report out on where we are with Act 73 and lay out what they have ahead of them during that legislative session. So I'll be focused in on that as we shift into April. At that meeting, we'll do the board reorganization at that meeting. I've asked Michelle to present out on some of the MTSS behavior system work that's happening. A lot of that is centered around our hazing, harassment, and bullying prevention work and response work that we're doing in our schools, and the behavior academies that are happening. There's kind of a pilot across multiple schools to see how we're intervening and teaching skills for students who are demonstrating lagging behavioral skills. So she'll be doing something on that. And then Fern, surprise, I didn't get to you today to tell you this, but we want you here in April as we're wrapping up this year and going into the following year to give the board an update on the facility upgrades that have occurred throughout the year over the course of this summer and throughout this next year, do some future planning and give a report out on his he's pretty savvy at finding resources. And he has got some grants that he'll report out on to you at that time. And then Morgan's budget focus will be on end of the year budget analysis and discussions about if there are some projects that we want to think about as we move into the summer and the end of the school year. So that being said, I really want your feedback on this about what are some things that were not, maybe you could zoom back out, Courtney, so they could see the whole piece of it. Are there some things that you hoped were going to be there that are not? Or any areas you want to hear about more often?
Well, it's very comprehensive. I appreciate you laying it out. Like, I'm like, wow, that covers a lot of terrain. I mean, I'd say, it's always helpful to have an understanding around like some of our teacher retention, and I mean, you touched on that a little bit with that, that interfaces with the process Michelle Irish just kind of outlined, but and also just curriculum as well is helpful, to kind of hear at least how curriculum / kind of portrait of a learner stuff is kind of working in the schools. I know we touch on that maybe a little more at the district level sometimes, but it's to hear from Leah and Gab at some point. I don't know if they were.
So they'll
part
do a
of that.
report on student assessment review. I wonder,
Yeah.
would you want us to, we'll be able to connect some of the student assessment data with this now being our second year with the new literacy program. So I
Yeah.
can tell you a little more about
Right.
that piece and some other shifts around curriculum. You think you could read that in Gab?
Sure.
And then in terms of portrait of a learner, she'll give an update in November.
Oh, great.
And then part of that will be the pilot project that we're in. This is really exciting because this is I'll just give a quick preview. There are 7 states across the country that are doing a pilot project with a company called ETS. I can't ever remember what ETS stands for.
Education Testing Service.
Okay. And so they are 7 full states have gotten on board, and they're piloting different ways to assess skills rather than having it be that it is a standardized assessment that's focused solely on content. So these states are doing the work that we're trying to do within our system, and some of the work that we're advocating for at the state level as well. And so we'll have the opportunity, because ETS has also partnered with the Mastery Transcript Consortium, and we were one of the first schools, Gab, in the early FTC consortium. So Gab has been with them from really early on. I rest. So because of that connection with MTC, we were able to get in on that pilot. So it's pretty exciting, and I'm looking forward to sharing more about that.
Great.
So there's something specific that you want Gab to focus on with the POL piece?
Yeah,
You want to think about what that is?
I will. I'll meditate on it a bit and let you know.
Okay. Any other feedback, questions, comments?
And oh, sorry.
So that we can
We'll
just look
get
at
access to this. Can you send access?
Yeah, I'll put it in a agenda blanks, probably tomorrow.
In an agenda?
In the pack, or if you want me to just send it.
Do you want to have her link it to what you already have, or do you want her to send it in an email?
Oh, it doesn't matter, just so I can look at it and
Okay.
come in.
Yeah.
I'll put it,
You can email feedback too if you want. I know it's a
Okay.
lot to digest. It's the whole year's worth of work. And you also can tell me it's too much, right? I really was trying to look at all that we're trying to hold across the system, and how do we give you a touch point on each, a little bit of each of that work.
And will you continue to, as you've done historically, kind of do a legislative update each
Yes.
meeting in addition to that roadmap?
Yes.
So that's kind of, that's additive.
Yes.
We're not like fundamentally shifting the way that you are kind of going through important topics in your report each month.
When I put the superintendent report in there, I'm still gonna give you the regular updates that I give you. But these are topics that I'm gonna go a little more in depth with you on, like this board monitoring plan was a topic that I wanted to give you a little more depth on this month. So it'll be more of a spotlight for me during
Right.
one element.
Understood, okay.
So you can email suggestions. I actually will have you email them to Courtney if you don't mind, and she'll gather those all for me, and then I'll make some revisions here. And we'll try this out this year, and if the structure works, it's something that we'll lean towards. I think it will help us to streamline what's coming for our work rather than having it be a little less structured and more up in the air of what's coming next for the spotlight.
Great, thank you, Linda.
Thank you. So I'll go back to, so I lost the other part. There it is. So I wanted to give the board a heads up that we have for years used the ALICE training protocol in response to options-based threats within our building. We had a meeting last May, I want to say. I took a team of people who work on school safety, both inside this office. Robin Gagne is our school safety coordinator, and people from a variety of schools that are also working on it. We had a meeting at the Collinsburg Sports Complex, and it included a team from every system in the whole county. And one of the things that we as superintendents have been talking about for more than a year is that our emergency responders are the same emergency responders. So when we all have different code words and we all have different protocols and systems, they really don't know who has what. Even if we give it to them in the heat of the moment, they don't really know. So one thing that came up, I think we all know we had a couple of bad things happen in our community last year, and we had a situation where there was someone that the police were following back into the community, and it ended up here on the corner in a pretty scary way for the community. So we had some hours of being on high alert in our buildings and had people just, our code, it was secure, the school, to just stay inside. And we got a call from a trooper that just said lockdown, which that isn't a term that we were using under ALICE, because lockdown is, we have trained it differently, that's not something you do. You give information and you create options. So secure the school was the right code for us. So we made a coordinated decision in May that we were going to try to use the same systems across the county. So we were I think one of only two that were still using ALICE, and the others had moved to Run, Hide, Fight. So we're now all using Run, Hide, Fight. It is very similar to the ALICE protocol, except there are 3 instead of 5 words that we're using. So it is really just the same idea that if there's a dangerous situation, you need to use the information you have to make the best decision for yourself and your students in that moment. So it might mean that you have information that indicates to you that your best, safest option is to create distance between yourself and the dangerous someone in the building. You might have information that indicates that this is too close to you and you can't safely run, so you're gonna choose to do an enhanced lockdown to hide, but barricade. And the other option, which is obviously not for our youngest students, but to counter, it would be counter in ALICE, but it would be to fight. And that's really not like fight with your fist, but fight with moving tables, throwing things, trying to interfere with what's happening. So that is what we're shifting to. Robin Gagne has done a tremendous amount of work to create this shift. She's met with our leaders, she's gone through all of this with them, has created a training protocol to be used in all of our schools, and I believe that has happened in all of our schools at this point during the in-service. And I have a letter that's going out to families in a day or two So that's why we made the shift and what we made the shift to. The last piece that we're working on are those codes that you call, and we will have cards made. We're not there yet, but everyone will have behind their ID badge the run, hide, fight, and secure, the language related to that. So what questions do people have?
You said this is uniformly used across Franklin, like pretty much across Franklin County.
Much of the state, actually.
Okay.
When we began, Alice was kind of the gold standard, and a lot of people were using Alice, and the people who didn't come on board in that time, if they had law enforcement partners, the law enforcement partners were not training with Alice. They were training those schools with Run, Hide, Fight. So Run, Hide, Fight has kind of grown across the state. That's the thing that most law enforcement partners are most familiar with. And the Agency of Education at one time was pointing people towards Alice, and they now pulled that back, and they've said, you know, it just needs to be an options-based, and Run, Hide, Fight is one of those things that they do approve of. And I will say that we're always looking for efficiency. Alice was not free, so there was an annual buy subscription. How do I say that, Dominic? We had to pay so much per individual subscription, right?
Yeah, license.
Yeah, licensing component for Alice, so that was, I think it was the right decision for a variety of factors. The financial was not the biggest driver, but it is a driver. So, any other questions?
Thank you.
So I'm excited to share the next piece. And this is something that there'll be a press release coming about this, but for right now, I'm just sharing it with the board, and I shared it with our teachers at Convocation. So we have been accepted into the National League of Innovative Schools Network, and this is kind of a forward-thinking, nationwide group that's really focused on innovation and excellence in education. The application process for the league is competitive, and we found out maybe a month ago that we were accepted into the league. There are only 150 member districts across the country, and we have one other system in Vermont, Franklin West Supervisory Union, has been a member of the League of Innovative Schools for many years. So we have access by being a part of the league to the research and educational best practice, professional learning opportunities. We also have the opportunity to collaborate with other districts, other system leaders. There are some student leadership opportunities that sound pretty interesting. We don't really understand all of those pieces yet as we're going into our first year with the league, and there'll be opportunities for us to both learn from other system leaders, but then also opportunities for us to lead and share some of our collective work with others. And Digital Promise, which is an organization that Dominic has worked with, they do a lot of work in the education realm. A lot of it is related to technology and tools, and I think some of the AI work that I know that some of the templates that we looked at early on came from Digital Promise. They're a partner with the League of Innovative Schools, so we have some access to learning opportunities from them as well. So we have a press release coming about that. They're releasing something in mid-September. I don't fully understand what it is, but we wanted to share with the board because it's something that I will say that Gab and Michelle did the heavy lifting on the application process and just highlighted all of the work we've been working on as a system for the last several years, and we went through an interview process and they liked what we had to say, so.
Oh, bravo, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
I'll shift now. We had kind of a long-standing grievance with the union that we were trying to navigate. For those of you who have been working on this, it involved staff member Karen Jacobs and Handle with Care. Those were two different grievances. So because we went through the negotiation process with the support staff this past year, there was language that we put into that support staff agreement that really addressed the crux of what these long-standing grievances were about. So both leadership and the union were able to come to an agreement about, we're in a place where we think we can figure out these grievances now with this new language. So you had in your packet a grievance settlement letter, and what I would ask is that, first, I'll answer any questions you have about that, and then second, when you're ready, a motion to authorize Mary to sign the grievance settlement letter, which I'll have to go get.
No problem. Anytime. Any discussion from the board about the letter? All right, so I'll make that motion to sign it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I will give you an update. I'll be brief about this. I sent you some information along with our community information in early July around federal funding. And I talked about this briefly at your district board meetings this month. We started the summer in kind of a scary place where our grant funding was put at risk, and even though it had already been allocated, it was withheld, and we were unsure for quite some time whether or not we were actually going to get it. It was eventually released. We did take some measures in our LEAPS summer program. We did some cost containment there because we really were not clear if it was going to come through or not. So we still have some worries around federal funding, because one of the things that I want all of you to understand is we rely on two big sources of funding for our after-school program and then lots of little sources. One is consolidated federal grants under Title Morgan.
Title II?
Title II for the LEAPS after-school program.
Sorry, 4 for LEAPS.
Okay. Title
2 is the other one that's at risk.
Okay, so Title IV for LEAPS, and even though that's stable right now, the money that we get for our consolidated federal grants is dependent on the number of students who live in our communities who meet the poverty criteria. So there are some shifts in Medicaid that have happened at the federal level, and the second big funding source we have is through Medicaid. We made that decision when our budgets were going down a couple of years ago. So we shifted from the local districts contributing to LEAPS to some of that Medicaid reimbursement money that we get. So that's another big pot of money that we use for our LEAPS after school program. So that money is a little bit at risk as well in Medicaid. We're not sure about this year, we're very worried about next year. So as the eligibility criteria shifts, fewer families will be eligible for Medicaid, and fewer families are going to meet the criteria of poverty, essentially. So that not only will impact our Medicaid funding, it will impact overall how much money we're able to draw down from the federal government for anything under consolidated federal grants, because it's allocated to us based on our level of need. And poverty is one of the big factors that leads to us having that level of federal funding. Is there another way that you could say that, or anything you want to add to that?
I don't think so. It's definitely going to be a conversation as we go through the next few months in terms of funding, and the Title II and Title IV cuts, I think, are going to be more immediate when they come and a little easier to wrap our head around. The Medicaid cuts are going to have so many downstream impacts. Not only increasing the need in our community, but we won't really know long-term what it will do to the reimbursement rates that we get. It's funding the 21C program right now. It'll also have impacts on things like the E-rate money that Dominic is able to pull down for us based on technology investments. And then ultimately, Title I dollars are driven by poverty, and so to the extent that that we're losing those numbers, there's going to be an impact that's felt out over the next couple of years.
So that's the context of the federal funding and where we stand. So it is just, I think if I had to couch it under any umbrella, it would be uncertainty right now. And we're giving that to you now because we're about to embark on our budgeting process. So all of this will factor into what we bring to you, into those budgeting conversations, both at your district level and at the SU level. Those are all big factors. In terms of the state, there's a lot going on at the state level. In this report, I'm focusing on Act 73. There is Act 73 is kind of the big education transfer. It used to be called H454. Now that it's law, this is around the education transformation plan. So part of Act 73 was that they established a redistricting task force. And I will ask Courtney to just go to that link if you can. So the redistricting task force is actually not under the agency of, go back to the top, it's not under the agency of education, it's under the agency of administration, and I just think that is important to note. So when you go looking for this on the site, that's where you're going to find it. It'll be in the slideshow that you'll have linked. So this is everything related to this will fall on this site. Now if you could go down to the bullets, that'd be good. So that gives you the members who are on that task force. There are representatives and senators, those are the legislative members, and then there are non-legislative members that represent retired, former superintendents. VSB, Kim Gleason represents the Vermont School Boards, and then Chris Locarno represents the business managers, and Dave Walt, Jay Adams, and Jen Botziger are all former superintendents. Is Dave in the superintendent realm, or is he under the, because he is out there?
He was a superintendent.
But is that what he's there representing?
None of them are actually representing their groups, it's just those are roles that were tied to those groups.
The categories, right. That's a good, I'm glad you reframed that. They're not working for any current superintendents, they're just, those were categories outlined in the law. So superintendents, school boards, business officials. So if you look down, there's a calendar for upcoming meetings. There are also committee materials. Could you maybe zoom out just a little bit? I'm disoriented by the page. We can't see all that. Let me see if I can get there myself. Hold on. So on this page, I just want to orient you to I guess it would be under committee materials. So you can see everything that they have tuned into. They have a draft template, if you could open that, Courtney, for proposing redistricting plans. So we can see now in that what this task force is going to use in terms of their reporting template. So by looking at this, you can see what the priority areas are in terms of, if you go down in number 4, you can see that they're looking at metrics for reducing cost, they're looking at quality, efficiency, the execution of it, fairness and equity, voice, and then there are some challenges and trade-offs, and kind of got a catch-all category at the end. But this gives you a little bit of information, a little insight into how they're going to be making that decision. The other interesting part is if you go back, Courtney, to the original page where you clicked in to go to that, where it says maps, if you click that, this was really interesting. So if you could go into District Builder tool, this is something anybody can play with, and what they're tasked with is they're tasked with looking at the state of Vermont and trying to determine right now, Franklin Northeast, we know it's these 6 towns. The legislature has tasked them with coming up with recommendations of districts or supervisory unions between 4,000 and 8,000 students. And we're just under 2,000, just to give you some context. You can click on any of those gray, if you just go over to the left in the map, Courtney, and you click on any of those gray little dots, or and you can just click around that. You can start building a map, keep clicking more, you can see what she's doing is building District 1. So it's giving you the number of students. If she keeps adding towns there, we're up around 3,100 students. She's getting a little more in Franklin County now, a little in Grand Isle. So you can see if you could stop there. Right now, she's got a district. I did not prep her to do this way. That was totally random how she selected that. But you can see in this tool that she just created a district, District 1, that has 5,600 students, and they've got a projected grand list per student of whatever that dollar amount is.
854,968.
Okay. Morgan and I are still a little unclear why that's so centered, the grand list per student. It seems a little, we're thinking about what impact that's going to play in funding. It is unclear why that is elevated in all of these conversations quite as much as it is. But anyway, it's a tool where you could think about, to meet that 4,000 to 8,000, what would you do? If you or anybody else that's out there wants to play around with it, it is a really interesting tool, and it does give you some other information. I can't really see it on the part where Courtney is, but I think maybe back one click to the previous slide. You have, you go down just a little bit. You have the ability to explore things around existing schools. There's some drive time stuff, but there's also, once you configure, I think if you go into District 1 that you just created, there is a way for you to click right into that to the right. No, to the box over to the right that says District 1. I think if you click in that, maybe not. There's somewhere where it gives you a lot more information about the number of schools that you selected in there, and there you go. There's some different information. There are other reports, some I can't tell by looking at it there, but you can get into a little more detailed information. But I just wanted to bring that to you so that you could see what is out there. What questions do people have about that?
And so that committee that you named and kind of went through those folks, those are the people tasked with creating these new districts.
Correct.
And
They're tasked with sending 3 proposals to the legislature.
okay.
And the legislature can do whatever they want with those.
And how does that interface with the State Board of Education? Are they involved in this at all?
Not to my knowledge. I don't think they play a role in redistricting.
It's so
It's very
interesting
different than
because
Act
they were
46.
front and center during the entire Act 46 process, so it's just interesting that they are apparently sidelined now.
It is interesting. There's a lot of political pieces. There's another group that's also kind of sidelined. That's the Morgan.
The Committee on the Future of Public Education.
Yes.
Huh. Okay.
So they were supposed to come up with a recommendation this December about that education transformation, and then the governor's plan kind of preempted what they were working towards and had been tasked with. So this committee has an important role. They don't make the end decision, but they do make the recommendations that the legislature will contemplate. And what we do know from their charge is at least one of their maps has to include some supervisory unions. I think that's how the language made it in the end. So the others do not need to include supervisory unions, so.
The structure of the
Structure. So maybe I'll just say a
And
little
what
bit
about
that.
supervisory districts?
School districts, yes.
Okay.
So I want to just say this because I don't think people fully understand that we're a supervisory union structure. FNESU is the supervisory union, and we have 2 districts below us, NMB and ER. We can't be a supervisory district, an SD, because our 2 districts don't match in terms of how they operate. So NMB schools operate pre-K 8 and they tuition 9-12, and the ER schools operate pre-K 12. So because they don't match, that's when we didn't fully merge under Act 46, we had to remain a supervisory union. So the crux of that had to do mostly with, I keep looking at you because Jamie's always talking about the efficiency part of it's harder to be in an SU for a variety of factors because there's so much duplication of the efforts that we have under that system. An SD would be a system where you had the same structure. You were operating all of your schools. There could be choice within and across your district, but there wouldn't be choice outside of your district. So this is a topic that's heatedly debated. People can go on and watch these task force meetings. They're streamed live. You can go back and look at the recordings. You can send in public comment as a private citizen if you wanted to.
And are members of the public allowed to attend or no?
I don't think well, there was a small area from what I saw.
I think there are open meetings.
Yeah.
I don't, the one that I watched, I don't know that we,
There was a little where Sue and Chelsea were sitting off to the right, but it looked like a pretty small room.
Yeah.
So I don't think that they're expecting a ton of public to be in person, but there's certainly, when we were watching, you could see how many little face bubbles were on the Zoom call. A lot of people were watching. All right, that is all I have if you don't have any other questions.
Will you send a link to that
It's in the
page?
slideshow.
It's in the slideshow? Okay. And then that's it?
Yes.
And just this note about you had a little note at the end of this agreement, but we
We'll
touched
go
on
to
that.
that at the end, yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. So, moving on to our central office, updates. Dominic, do you have anything after your big presentation? I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to touch on.
No, I'm all set. If
Okay.
anyone had any questions.
Okay, thank you so much. So Gab,
I think I'll just say convocation's over. I think it went okay. We used a new app that I'm pretty excited about, and I think we're streamlining things for a lot of people called Sched, which allows us to plan a little bit more efficiently and also allows people who are attending to have a little more agency over where they go. We have a lot of teachers and other people who do multiple things in our buildings. And so when we try to get art teachers together and I have to place everybody there, it gets a little tricky when you've got 3 art teachers that are also librarians or work here or work there. So it will streamline a lot of that type of, I don't know, nitty-gritty kind of detailed stuff. People can just own that. If they feel like they should go with library, they go with library. If they feel like they should go with art, they go with art. So I'm hoping that that goes well.
great, so much, Gab. Michelle.
Sure, I'm gonna steal some of your thunder, but as I continue to try to improve our alternative programs, each year I figure out things that don't work well. And one of those things was our bathroom in the RISE program. It was too small and we work on a lot of toileting plans and staff couldn't fit in the little preschool. It took the old preschool room. So I think Vern's getting sick of me, but he figured out,
Careful, you're on camera.
he figured out a way to get this really beautiful, nice bathroom that an adult and a student can fit into to work on toileting plans. And we were creating behaviors because we had to sometimes go down the hall to get to a space. And he also, in the cement, put a connecting door, so I have a hole in the wall to get between 2 rooms. So super excited about that. And then the high school also, we needed a sensory space and they gave me a space to have this really cool swing and a bunch of tools for students. And then Lynn mentioned
It's a swing specific to sensory needs.
just for sensory needs, yeah. Not just regular swing,
Yeah.
right? And then, as Lynn mentioned, we kind of did a makeover over at Steps. We repainted and used some chalkboard and whiteboard paint on the walls, and we added an office space for some specialized instruction and put up some new window shades. And on Monday, I pretty much asked for a lot of these people sitting around the table to come over and help me, and which they did. And had some people, Michelle was painting, Lynn and Morgan were putting up washing windows, and so anyway, got that done. And then the last thing I just want to share is that we completed Handle with Care training today. It was yesterday and today, and Robin and Lindsay did one group, and Phil Cook and Tim Stanley did another group, and we have 54 staff members trained across the SU. The majority of the staff members are for the alternative program and planning rooms with a few other people sprinkled in, so that's it.
Excellent, bravo, thank you so much. Michelle Irish, do you have
Yeah,
anything you'd
just
like
a
to
couple
add?
things to add. In my report, I included the FNESU Code of Conduct. You probably remember we did some work with that in the spring. We took some feedback, made some adjustments, and have launched it. So one of my other summer plans, in addition to teacher evaluation work, was creating slide decks and introductory material for leaders to use with students, with their staff, and with community members. So if you're going to open houses, things like that, you should see some reference to that. I think it's important to click into that when you get this report and look especially for the section that says school board members will, because there's a section in there of how we're going to interact with each other and with our public. So tuning into that would be important. And this year, our MTSS SIT team, or System of Supports team that's working on behavior, is going to be creating and distributing some more training materials to help keep that code of conduct really living in our system. And then the last thing I have, you probably have started to see student handbooks, student family handbooks coming through. We made a concerted effort this year to align all of the pre-K to 8 schools with the same language, and so they should have taken a lot of that language and imported it. So we have a lot of consistency, at least at the K to 8 level right now. And we're working on the high schools probably as we go along, but that was, I think, people were excited to have it, if you can get excited about a handbook.
I think that they were very excited that it was work that we had known was on our radar for a long time, and getting principals together to be able to do that work. Michelle took the lead. I'm just gonna say, without being asked, just jumped in and said, I'm gonna do it, and then gave them the template, asked for feedback, and super well received.
I used an AI tool to pull all of the handbooks together and create one consistent one with a lot of our policies. So it was good timing for AI to be as effective and useful as it is. So it took a onerous job and made it much easier.
Was that the notebook LM, the source documents?
I don't remember. Maybe, yes.
There are tools that are helping us to be more efficient with our work.
I tend to bounce across 3 or 4 different tools for different things, so yeah, I probably use Notebook LM to start, and then probably Cloud, my other favorite, to clean up some language.
Great, thank you so much, Michelle. Okay.
Yeah, so summer was, funding aside, excellent. We served almost 600 youth last summer. It was definitely our largest year yet. We learned about the summer funding day 2, or the freeze to our funding, day 2 of summer camp. So I'm very proud of my staff for pivoting, changing their scheduling, changing their plans, and all while making sure that the students just had a really fabulous summer. So they did a lot of really fun in-house stuff on the days that would have been field trip days. Our community partners really supported us with sharing some of their resources so that we were able to still have the Vermont Museum of Natural History join us. We had clip presentations where students were getting free books, UVM summer science, and lots of other fun people who came and gave some wonderful experiences for our students. We also, for the first time this year, partnered with the Missisquoi River Fishing Festival. So they've been doing it for a couple of years in a row on the weekend. Either the weather's too nice for people to show up, or it's not nice enough for people to want to go outside. And at our Amesburg High School, we have a fishing mini camp, so we tied it to be the same week. So the students learned fishing, and then they went and they worked with the game warden and so I can't remember all of the associations that were there, but there were at least 15 different vendors. They got to work with people around the county around, taking care of the river and outdoor recreation. So that was really good, and everybody was very impressed with our students, so it was nice to bring that back and share with them. And so funding-wise, the government unfroze our funds. We're still not sure about fiscal year 26. It's a little confusing because we use fiscal year 25 to fund this current fiscal year. So Congress has not appropriated or finalized the appropriations of the next year's funding. So the advocacy that's been happening seems to be working. Congress has said that they want to level fund, was the last that I heard, but they're still steps away from making a final budget. So we're still going to be holding on to that and monitoring how all of those other impacts that Lynn's laying out will have on LEAPs. We are grateful that we will be able to start the year at the very least with 5 days a week of programming as we normally would. The only change that we're making at this time is Enosburg Middle High School and Richard Junior Senior High School for the last 2 schools in our district that were busing youth home. And the buses were only for those who lived in the town of Richford and the town of Enosburg, so not even the whole population of the students at the school. This year, we will not be offering those services. But after school-wise, we have a lot of stuff that we're looking forward to. We're gonna have 3 intramural e-sport teams with our middle high school groups. I've worked with the athletic directors. They don't want to make it an official sport, so we're working through this in the after-school setting. And we'll be doing a musical again this fall in Enosburg, and then another play of some sort in Richford that's still to be determined, but we'll still be moving forward with our fall and offering foreign languages after school and chess club and the other activities that we always offer. So we're still scheduling, so we can't predict what we're gonna have right now.
Lots of good stuff.
Lots of good stuff, oh yeah.
So much good stuff, thank you. I'm a little sad I didn't know about the owl specialist. I have a thing for owls. I would have loved to. So if you do that again next summer, please don't forget me.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah, and Sheldon likes to bring them in about every other year, every 3 years, just so that the students see something fresh.
Yeah.
So we probably won't have them next year.
Okay.
The planetarium lady was really, really neat. She
I bet.
comes in with, it looks like a bouncy house sort of thing, like this giant blow-up space that takes up part of the gym.
Oh,
And then you get to
cool.
see the constallations inside, and she
Nice.
just explains it all to you. It's really neat.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So many great opportunities. Thanks. All right, Jamie.
Okay, well, as Lynn mentioned, we're pretty close to being fully staffed. I mean, as much as we have been since before COVID. So we've hired 28 new professional staff members. So this is a reduction of 17 from last school year, so that's good. We've hired 15 new support staff members. So far, this is a reduction from the end of last school year. It's a reduction of 32, so we've had a lot of people return. So hopefully they stay the whole year. Right? So we have a few openings, like Lynn mentioned. I think we're maybe about 8 total if we had filled everything. And some of those are just new that we never had somebody in there, but we were advertising. We've had so far 10 requests for FMLA, 4 of which require long-term subs. We are starting the year with 3 licensed long-term subs. One of those is probably going to end up subbing for the entire year because he's doing back-to-back leaves throughout the year, so that's good. And micro-credentialing, so as of this morning, we had 62 support staff that were supposed to be micro-credentialed, and at this point, we're only missing 6, so hopefully those come in the next tomorrow, hopefully. Let's see. licensing, so we had 56 renewals, and all of our renewals are licensed, but, so far, for the start of the school year. We are waiting on, I think, 6 provisionals, but they're in there, and we're just waiting for them to be approved. And then we'll be fully licensed. I've applied for 34 provisional licenses, and 5 emergency licenses. And a lot of those provisionals are people that were on an emergency last year, and they've done what they needed to do to get now, to qualify for a provisional, so they have 2 more years. And lastly, we have column movements. We've had 30 teachers complete their column movements to date. Teachers have till September 1st to finish all their classes and get us the grades by September 30th, and they can still make those movements. I think 20, 40. So we have about 19 teachers left, but there's a lot of them that are making, graduating with their masters at the end of August, so those should be coming in.
Great, thank you so much, Jamie. It's such a burly, it's always a heavy lift, but especially this time of year.
Well, actually, one more thing. We finished the negotiations and all the contract amendments went out last week, so.
Oh, nice,
So
wow.
everybody's gonna get paid the right amount. for their
Everybody's gonna
first
get
day.
paid the right amount for the first paycheck.
Great, oh, great, thank you so much. Dawn,
So summer feeding is completed, so kitchen staff were finally able to get that little bit of break. We start right up, we end school on, I think we ended this year on a Monday. And they had to get their kitchens cleaned up and ready to roll because we started some summer feeding sites that following Monday. So we go right from one program right into another program. They ran until August 4th, and then they ended up having that next week off, and then next week we jumped right into new teacher orientation where the food service staff, Tayson, comes in and does some work for that. And then we go right into the convocation and training and whatnot. So really food service staff have like a 1 or 2 week window there where they get some time off to go and do some things. I'm happy to say that with the 2 resignations that I ended up getting this year, it's sad to see them come in, but I was able to fill those positions that that were created by those 2 resignations. Both staff members that left had been with us for quite a while and were awesome people that really took their jobs to heart and whatnot. So just for personal reasons, that's why they got done, but that's, it happens. So it was nice to be able to fill those positions with some more staff coming in. We did end up going through another audit this summer, as I had told you about last time we met. We were going to be under a summer review audit. That one came through. Results are just coming in on that one. It looks like we did pretty good on that audit. There are some things that I have to kick back to the state that we had available for them when they came to site, but they didn't actually look at them, so now I get to scan them to them. But they're done, and so we should be pretty good with that one. Then we took in, as we transition to a new school year, we're hitting with some new regulations through the meal service program. So those are some things that, we've really been working on and trying to get some of those things unpacked. One big thing that a lot of people and staff don't always understand is that a product that you go into the actual grocery store and buy, like a bag of nacho cheese Doritos, that we all might think, well, nacho cheese Doritos are nacho cheese Doritos. Reality is they're not. The ones that I have to buy through their vendor are specific for school food service. They're reduced fat and a whole grain item. So lots of times that's something that might get kicked back to us, and parents might say, well, how come you can feed our kids this in school and it's loaded with this ingredient? It's because it's a specifically designed product that vendor has specifically made for school food service. So we have a lot of products that are that way, and that's why we have to buy through the vendors that we do. So, other than that, knock on wood, hoping for a great year, fully staffed, hoping to keep it that way.
I just want to say something like, Morgan and I sit through the audit reviews, and Dawn has regular monitoring that she has, and the level of detail, all the rules and regulations that she has to follow, the level of detail of what they look at and kind of pick apart across all of their visits it just is amazing to me that her and her staff are holding all of that and doing so well on the audits, and they'll find things and they're like little teeny tiny things that, we have to correct, but it's just a lot to hold and remember, and I don't think people really fully understand, and some of her responsibilities even go into, because we do fresh fruit and vegetable, what happens in the classroom, right? So her responsibility is beyond what happens in the kitchen.
Great, thank you so much, Dawn. Vern?
Yeah, I was a bad guy, I didn't get my notes in
I
time,
was,
to see
I,
some
well, I
highlights.
had a little moment, I was scrolling back through to
Yeah,
think, did I skip you?
I apologize.
No worries,
I'll give you
figured.
more in depth the next one. But anyways, I'll just give you a highlight of what we did.
Yeah, all good.
He's been a little busy.
Number one, I thank them every year, but our staff were incredible. We're opening our schools up right now, they shine, and I can't say enough for the help that I've got. So, Richford, we did some pretty major things at the high school. We did a new entryway with concrete. It's beautiful. New flooring down in the cafeteria entrance. We remodeled the I don't know if you call it home economics. What do you call that anymore? I guess it's home economics. Yeah. So we redid that. It came out really, really nice. We had one little bump in the road with the flooring, but we're going to get it done during the first break. New carpeting, we had to upgrade some AC in the principal's office. It was worn out, so we did some work there. Berkshire, super excited to be able to open up with another pellet system. We're probably 90% done. We're waiting on some breaching, but we've got it heating hot water right now. I'm guessing within the next couple of weeks we'll be fully functional there. Modular, we had a modular delivered 3 weeks ago, and it's up and running. We got power. They finished up the badge system. We have fire. Again, I got to tell you something. Some of the contractors that I had, I don't know why they haven't beat me to death sometimes because for what I'm asking, but they stepped up really, really well.
So just for people's context, that we had to have modular.
Yes, we had to have a modular because we had those 2 classrooms that have been closed for, what are you going on, year 3 right now? This is third year. And
for PCB testing.
Yeah, for PCB, and quite honestly, we needed to do something for these kids, so that we talked, and this was the next best thing. So we were able to get ramps built, porches built. I mean, I can't believe we turned it around in 3 weeks, but it was incredible. Enosburg High School, we did some upgrading in the auditorium. I took the high school and I didn't do the lighting upgrade there because of the size of it, and I didn't think I was going to be able to pull it off. But so basically, we took a quarter. We're going to do. I was hoping it was going to be a third, but after I walked it the other day, I think it's going to be a quarter and a quarter. So, so the lighting upgrade. We did a new STEAM classroom. We relocated that and did some shuffling there with Russ. Help me out. The class. Thank you. So we had to do some shuffling, and it came out really good. It was a project. To get that up and running, but I think it's going to be okay. Again, what they did over the high school this year was pretty incredible. Enosburg Elementary, again, hats off to everybody over there. But we were with your green light last year, we were able to abate about 50% of the original school, and we opted to go all new paint, ceilings, or not ceiling, I'm sorry, all new flooring. The flooring in there, you guys have got to visit. I'm hoping it was the right color. It looks awesome. It's an epoxy floor. with, again, staffing and, amount of people we have in there, we're looking for ways to make it a little easier. I hope to God that this was the right call. I'm pretty excited with how it looks. So, yeah, it was exciting. It was a busy summer. So basically, we stepped back from a couple of schools that really we could step back from. Montgomery was one of them. We do have some new cafeteria tables that are in the wall. They're a little behind right now. They're going to be here in the next month, and we can get those in a pretty timely fashion. Bakersfield, we painted the gymnasium. We painted the stage. It looks incredible. Again, the staff up there, the place shines. It looks great. Sheldon, we're waiting on a condensate tank for the steam boilers. That rotted out, but we ordered it, and actually my company that I'm dealing with they actually went down and got it for me because it was kind of slow out of the gate. So all in all, it was a great summer. I'm super proud of how we're going to be able to open up these schools. But again, this wouldn't have happened without the people we have, and I can't say enough about how they all stepped up and did a great job for us.
It also wouldn't have happened without you coordinating all of this at this level.
They make it easy.
I'm watching Morgan's face as you're giving that report, and these are things that he used to have to hold, and there's no way that we could do this level. So thank you for everything you did to make these things happen.
Yep.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Frank. Okay, so I think that's everyone. And so under board business, we were going to have a discussion about, I know we're going to let everyone go shortly, and then we will go into executive session for the grievance part of this. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is Wednesday, September 17th here at the central office, but we wanted to have a discussion about whether we need to shift the day, the week, for if there are other days that may work better for board members. I say that knowing we are short a number of board members, so I don't think that we can probably come to any decisions. We would probably want to send out a doodle poll or some sort of thing like that if we are going to shift things around, but maybe it would just be helpful to have a quick conversation here, how people are finding this third Wednesday of each month for your respective schedules, and is there a week or a day that would work better for people? Miranda, how does,
I think
this
it's
one's
fine, yeah.
pretty generally okay
Yeah.
with your schedule?
Yeah.
And the 6 o'clock start time,
Yeah.
okay. And how about for you, Sarah?
For the most part, it just didn't last week.
Yeah, okay. So you haven't found that to be like, it's not consistently
No.
difficult or anything, okay. And how about for you, Mark?
Just give or take. Usually Wednesdays are bad for me.
Yeah.
Tuesday works a lot, yeah. Tuesday works great.
Tuesday's a much better day. How about for you all Tuesdays? And again, you could think on it. We could do a poll.
Do you want Courtney to do that, to
Yeah.
send a poll and give some options about some, maybe keeping the same or looking at some
Yeah.
available Tuesdays?
Yeah, let's do that.
We talked about Mondays, but Mondays are a little bit problematic just because of the warning when it's right after the weekend. It just makes it a little harder for our work. It backs everything way out in terms of principal reports and her job.
Right, okay.
I think it's going to come in as a Google form. I think that's a better format.
Then just to do, because it's
Yeah.
nice if there's a little space to kind of write a paragraph or whatever.
I'll send it tomorrow.
Okay,
Maybe Thursday.
That's fine.
Thursday.
no rush.
We will be on tour tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a really busy with the start of school, of course, no problem. Well, we'll keep an eye out for that and see what everyone weighs in with. Okay,
So at this point, I would like to release everybody that
Yes.
is not, would like to keep Morgan,
Of course.
and Jamie, and then release everybody.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you both. Nice to see everyone.